This is a short guide to help you when you are reading at home with your child. So it's going to share some strategies and some of the things that we do at school that will hopefully be familiar to your child to make sure that they continue to exercise their reading skills at home. So as we said, it's incredibly important that they are reading for 20 minutes at least every day to keep these literacy skills going. And as we do want them to be good independent readers, it's also really important that they practice their skills with someone else. So like we do at school, where a lot of our pupils have a reading buddy twice a week, it would be great if you can buddy up with your child and use some of these tips in order for them to exercise those skills we're talking about. So to start off with, we're looking at the 4 reading skills. Okay, so the 4 reading skills are called the reciprocal reading skills. So first of all, it's predicting. Secondly, questioning. Then clarifying those tricky keywords. And then at the end or after a section of the text, summarising. Okay, so we're going to use these 4 skills throughout the reading session, throughout the 20-minute session. But we do start off with predicting and end in summarising, but we will be doing them throughout. So as you can see, it's also good if you make sure that your child is prepared. So ideally highlighters, a couple of pens in varying colours, because that often helps our children, and some extra paper. So you might be reading a paper copy like I have here, or you might be reading the PDF online. Either's fine. If you have any post-it notes knocking around, anything like that, that's also really helpful to jot down keywords and the meaning of them. Okay, so also if your pupil has an overlay at home, it'd be really useful for them to use. The copy I'm going to be using when on the Reading Buddy video is in yellow, which I know does help some of our pupils with decoding those longer words, the trickier words. So as I said, we've got predicting, questioning, clarifying or summarising. To start off with, look at the title, so The Hunger Games. So I would ask my child, Hunger Games, what does it make us think of? So straight away from games, you might get ideas about competition, the idea that it's going to be characters pitched against each other. Moving on from that, you can go to the word hunger. So away from its literal meaning, what else does hunger make us think of? So you're predicting and questioning. So hunger might make you think of competition or a desire to get something, to achieve something, passion. So already you've got these ideas. So you jot them down perhaps around this or on paper if you are reading online. So keep a piece of paper for each Reading Buddy session. This will help you for when you move on to your next Reading Buddy session in a few days, to remember what you've read and help your child retain the information. Okay, so then the next skill that we need to do is when we start reading, some of our children will probably need help decoding those tricky words, which is why they might receive intervention at school. So, I'll just demonstrate. When I wake up, the other side of the bed is cold. My fingers stretch out, seeking Prim's warmth, but finding only the rough canvas cover of the mattress. So some words that our children might find tricky here are perhaps words like rough. Okay, so the skills we do is we get them to use synthetic phonics, which some of you might already know about and some of the children do know about. So a simpler way to do it is for each sound in the word, put a little dot underneath it and then get them to read that sound. So get them to take their time. For example, r, o, ah. So this sound is tricky. This is called a digraph. But together we know it makes an sound. So you put one dot, r, and then this sound. We've got a sound that would make a g and a h together. But when you join them, it makes the f sound. So rough, r, f. Okay? Get them to repeat after you. So echoing is another one of the reading skills that they really need in order to develop their pronunciation and their coherence when reading. So rough. Again, when you get trickier words, longer words, often children will guess these words if they find it hard to decode, which means read the sounds of it. So again, use the dots. This one is a little bit simpler than rough. M, A, T, R, S. Okay, go through it and then get the child to put those words, blend those sounds together. Okay, so that's decoding, which is the first reading skill. So then the questioning, the fourth one of the 4 reading skills, the questioning is about their developing their comprehension, their understanding of what they're reading. So, she must have had bad dreams and climbed in with our mother. Of course, she did. This is the day of the reaping. Okay, so this word here, reaping, this might be a word that needs clarifying, another of those 4 reading skills. So if your child might already know what that means, think about, have you heard that word before? Have you heard it on TV? Have you heard it on Alexa? Have you read that in a book elsewhere? If not, if they do, think about what word they could replace it with. So they might know that it means something about collecting. If not, use an online dictionary, use an actual dictionary. So if you search up reaping, it will come up with words like harvest, so collecting the harvest. Again, I'd make a note of that if you have a paper copy. If not, write it down on your paper to create a glossary of those keywords, tricky words. Again, highlight that word if perhaps it comes up a few times in the text, because it's likely that's very important to understanding the book. So that's clarifying the keywords and questioning. So it's the day of the reaping. Okay, so then you could say, where do you think this character lives then? What sort of place? Is it the countryside? Is it an urban place? So you might have noticed when I read this sentence, of course she did, I didn't use the punctuation correctly. So that's something that if I'm reading with a child as a reading buddy, I would correct, because echoing, teaching them how to read using that punctuation is really important to develop pupils' reading skills. So for example, of course she did. That's not quite right. Of course she did. So make sure they're pausing on the comma. Okay, I'm going to continue to demonstrate. I prop myself up on one elbow. There's enough light in the bedroom to see them. My little sister, Prim, curled up on her side, cocooned in my mother's body, their cheeks pressed together. So there, this longer sentence, I've tried to pause every time there's a comma there to show how it should be read, to show how important the punctuation is, to show the close link between the little girl and her mother, to show that she's cocooned in her body. Again, cocooned, you might need to clarify that sort of word with your pupil or child, pupil, child. Okay, so these are just some strategies to use whilst reading with your child at home. What I would then do is, as you get towards the end of the chapter, is get them to summarise what they've read. And this summary you can write down again in your glossary sheet on your paper or on your book if that helps, because when you come to your next session, going back over that summary will really help remember what you read, where you got up to, and what sort of questions you might want to pose to your child. So just in terms of the actual process of reading, you might want your child to read completely to you with your guidance. You might want to do what we call popcorn reading at school, which is where you read for a certain amount of time, then you popcorn your child and they read, and back and forth. This is a good way to demonstrate and model good reading skills. Or you might want to set them targets. For example, you read 2 paragraphs, I'll read 3. Then you read 3, I'll read 2. Try and set them little targets about reading if they're a little bit more reluctant. And then if you feel that you're a little bit nervous about the questioning, which is the most important of the skills, then read ahead. So read ahead and perhaps plan some questions to ask them whilst you're reading. You can look online. The text that we're reading, The Hunger Games, is often taught in schools, so there's a lot of advice on websites such as TES. There will be comprehension questions online for you to read as well if you need them to help you. So these are just some strategies to help you read with your child at home. As I said, really important to predict, question, clarify and summarise. And also I mentioned echoing, so demonstrating and modelling how to read clearly for your child. If you have any more questions, then please do phone in the school or email You can find me at this email address, and if you email me, I can email back with any help. And also the Reading Buddy weekly video will be online. The Reading Buddy video will be online for your child to read along with me, and that can be one of their 20-minute reading sessions per week.